I just need to do a quick rant on this because this is a serious pet peeve of mine, not only as a person, but also as a trauma-informed psychology student who has accepted a truth most people my age never even get to. Sure, you never had a seatbelt, you got hit as a kid, you grew up with some major authoritarian rules in your house, and yet, you insist you survived. You turned out just fine, right, and you don't understand why things had to change and why everyone's saying you were abused growing up. You can't understand why your kids won't just get over their crap already. Well, I got news for you, you did survive physically. However, emotionally, you lost yourself along Thea in many ways. You dissociated and fragmented what was considered socially unacceptable, and you don't even realize it. You say you're fine, but you can't relate to your kids. You can't stand their complaints, you wish they'd just toughen up already. You're so afraid of spoiling that you assume all kids that are upset with their parents are spoiled. You're holding on to the forced respect for you parents so much that you're willing to disrespect those over whom you hold power. You find yourself in relationships with partners with toxic behavior, verbal abuse, and sociopathic tendencies. Yet you ignore it, saying they're not that bad. You won't acknowledge your hurt feelings unless it involved you getting a black eye. You can't empathize with children who have legitimate complaints and emotional upset. You can't relate to the more sensitive people in your family. You call them drama queens and crybabies, and immature. Sure, you may not be a criminal and all, but you probably have hidden self-esteem issues. I've seen it more often than not. You probably engage in covert verbal, emotional abuse without realizing it. You intelligently bypass most negative feelings, believing they're not valid. Maybe you don't have a criminal record or a noticeably dysfunctional relationship, but you are horrible to yourself. You tell your children to get over it or stop crying or stop being so sensitive, like it's gonna do any good. Let's just say I sure feel sorry for the real you that is trapped under the lies you're telling yourself. I feel sorry for your kids, too. And I feel sorry for the inner child you've clearly abandoned, and I feel sorry for the mature and emotionally intelligent people trying to help you realize you got a lot of healing to do. Why don't you re-listening to them for once? Stop putting your biases above the harsh objective reality. Stop defending your upbringing and your abusers over yourself. Stop insisting you're healed. You're sick, you're messed up. Admit it already. Question your fallacies. Stop dissociating. Stop living in denial. You deserve so much better than that. If you really saw what your elders have done to you, you wouldn't be complaining about bratty kids and you wouldn't be telling sensitive people to toughen up. If you really knew your real self, you wouldn't justify your strict upbringing. You wouldn't dream of spanking a child ever again. You'd never want to yell at your partner or spouse and lose your cool again. If you saw how screwed up your life really is, you'd understand why you have confidence issues or self-image. You'd understand why you have anger issues or mood regulation problems. You'd understand why you are either a narcissist or are attracted to one. You'd understand why you can't stand up for yourself, or why you shut down your hurt feelings when people are mean to you, especially in front of them. You'd understand why you can't let yourself feel anything negative, why you can't cry, and why you can't trust people. Oh, or maybe you trust them too much. You'd understand why your kids reacting out or not talking to you. You'd understand why you constantly say things like, get over it, shake it off, stop taking everything personally, or stop being so sensitive. This is why you can't let your kids cry or be mad at you. If you were truly honest with yourself about your childhood trauma, you'd stop pushing forgiveness and forgetfulness. You'd wish you had seatbelts in your car as a kid. You'd wish your parents weren't druggies or alcoholics. You'd wish you were raised in a more loving environment that allowed free speech and self-expression, and you can work to make that environment for yourself now. You'd stop calling sensitive family members drama queens. You'd be grateful that more mature, indie objective people tried to stand up to you. You'd thank your kids for trying to communicate what you'd done to them. You can reparent yourself. You can stop calling your kids ungrateful and realize you're the ungrateful one. I know the more self-aware people threaten you, but don't shut out their warnings or advice. These people can relate to you better than most, They will never engage in abuse toward you, and they will never shut down your feelings. And, very importantly, they will never engage in that politically correct crap. In fact, the reality of mental health is insanely politically incorrect. But back to the point. What truly healthy people will do is challenge you to make more objective sense of your past and undo the dissociative patterns you've adopted. Yes, it will be painful, but you will realize that your survival was a result of fragmentation and not real toughness. In fact, it's fake toughness. Truly strong people are able to become painfully aware of what their childhood really did to them. You can sit with it and feel your emotional pain fully without judging or stuffing it down as you were taught to do. You need to question everything you learned from childhood. Get your true self back, and love it. Be KQD to yourself, dang it. Ignoring your pain and leaving your past untouched is not being kind to yourself. And you're certainly not being kind to the child you once were, and the child that will always be within you whether you like it or not. There is so much more I can say, but I'll leave it here. I don't care if you think you turned out fine, you didn't, so stop saying that. Whether you survived or not is irrelevant. Have some self-respect.